We're here with Brittany Bloomquist, and we're going to talk to her about a very serious medical condition that she experienced at the age of 22. How many years ago has it been now since you had the incident?
It has been a little bit over 3 years.
Okay, well, would you describe the 3 days leading up to the incident?
It happened on a weekend, and the first symptom, now knowing it's a symptom, that happened was after I was leaving work. And it had been a long day, and I had a pretty bad headache, but I just assumed it was, a long day at work. And I got home, relaxed, had something to eat, and it kind of went away, as the evening went on. The second kind of symptom that happened was the following day. Again, I had a headache, but I was working outside in the garden, doing stuff around the barn and stuff with the horses. After a little bit of time, having been outside, I got kind of dizzy, but it was the end of June. It was hot out. I'd been spending the whole morning out there.
Did you think you were maybe dehydrated?
Dehydrated, possibly just overheated. So went inside, had something cold to drink, and the headache went away, and no more dizzy spells, so assumed it was just too much time spent out in the sun. Then the third incident that happened, which is what happened right before the hospital, was we had been having lunch with some family members from out of town, and we left the restaurant, and it was hot outside again. But right as we stepped out, I kind of got like a severe headache all at once, got a little dizzy feeling, and then the feeling in my left leg just disappeared. I knew it was still there, but I couldn't feel the sidewalk under my foot anymore.
Did you fall?
No. I did lean on a family member till we got to the car and turned the air conditioning on right away and just spent a few minutes sitting there. The headache kind of went away. The feeling kind of came back to my leg, not entirely, but for the most part. After that, we just carried on like it wasn't anything. It was just something that passed.
This leads us to the actual event that led you to the hospital. Mm-hmm. What happened?
Well, after sitting in the car for a few minutes, we went over to the library where I work, came inside, did a couple things, checked our email, went up the stairs, came down the stairs. I had no problems with 2 flights of stairs. We were getting ready to go. It had probably been about 20 minutes. I felt fine, and I stood up from the table, and all of a sudden I lost the feeling in my left leg again. I knew it was there. I just couldn't feel that it was there. I got really dizzy. I had a sharp headache all at once, and I had to sit back down, and I couldn't get back up. I was just sitting there, and I was holding on to the edge with one hand, and I couldn't let go. I felt like if I would let go, I would fall off the chair. I didn't really have much sense of balance or feeling like I knew where I was. And once she realized that I couldn't, it wasn't just feeling that I couldn't, that I really couldn't, we called 911.
What happened when you got to the hospital?
Once I got to the emergency room, they checked vital signs right away, and this is a little bit hazy for me.
I'm sure.
This is one of those parts I don't remember as well as others. They did a CT scan, and they didn't really find anything. They didn't have a definitive answer. They checked my reflexes. They had a nurse held my hand above my face, and she told me that she was going to let it drop, and I was supposed to stop my hand from hitting my face, and I couldn't. Another thing was having to lay, when they did the CT scan, having to lay flat for that amount of time. I couldn't do that. I felt very dizzy and very nauseous, like I had to sit up, and I had to be able to see something around me instead of just the inside of the CT.
They did an MRI but without contrast, and they saw that the right vertebral artery seemed to be ending as if it had a clot in it, or it just ended, that it was never anatomically correct to begin with. And so they really didn't know what to do at that point. They still did not give any kind of blood thinner because they thought it was just some kind of an anomaly, and they were still looking and kind of didn't know what to do at that point.
Okay, so the vertebral arteries and the basilar artery lie right across the brainstem.
Right.
And did you know that at the time?
No.
Okay. They're doing more tests, and did they ever mention, the seriousness of what was going on?
But being a librarian, I immediately did my research and I became an expert on all things about the brain.
At this point, then, several hours later, they're thinking she has an arteriovenous malformation. There's something wrong with the way her blood vessels are shaped. So then what do they do after that?
They moved her to ICU with telemetry, where there was one nurse in the hall monitoring telemetry for 3 beds. We knew she was sleeping a lot, kind of going in and out, but they told me that that's common because the body has had such a physical insult. The whole emotion of, being in this kind of situation, those two things coupled together, was exhausting to her. So, I was willing to go with that. I understood it. It made sense. However, they were coming in to monitor her pretty frequently to make sure that she could be roused. And at one point, when I tried to rouse her, I don't even know what made me do it, because I probably would not have done it, off the schedule that was being done by the nurse. Something made me try to rouse her, and she wasn't. And so I called the nurse right away, and everything the nurse did, all the usual things, I guess, that are supposed to be done to try to rouse a patient, were not working, and Brittany was immediately taken to neurological ICU and put in a room where the nurse was next, right adjacent to her bed. I hate to fall back on something that's so unscientific, but I honestly think mothers know these things.
Yeah.
There must have been something that I perceived, observed. They actually were wanting to hear from me, because they said, they were stumped. They really didn't know why she wasn't waking up. I think they valued my insights on it, but I was as surprised as anybody that I saw something change, whatever it was, start to slip. And as soon as I mentioned it to the nurse, she came in, she tried to wake Brittany, it wasn't happening, and immediately it was, move this patient, quickly, do something.
Looking back, can you think of anything that may be related to the incident, years prior?
Yes. After the incident and after I was out of the hospital, several months, I think, we were still reading up on stroke symptoms in general, so that we would know for next time in case it happens, again, or TIAs. One of the symptoms we found that's specific to women is hiccups. And, upon reflection, I had been prone to having, just hiccups spontaneously, no rhyme or reason, for several years prior to the incident. And, afterward, once I was on blood thinners and Coumadin and things like that, those episodes stopped. So we never really could say it was, but it seemed like it.
And it is in the medical journals that people have studied this. There is but not everybody knows about it, because it's certainly not as common as, severe headaches or dizzy spells or whatever. But there is a correlation between hiccups, and it's only in women, not men, and stroke.
Risk factors for stroke include things like hypertension. That's the main one. So anybody who has high blood pressure is at higher risk. Did you have that?
No, I did not have hypertension, not high blood pressure. There isn't a history of stroke in the family. I've always been a vegetarian, so
low cholesterol,
no junk in the arteries.
Non-smoker.